GC co-creators, Lilou here. I can't not get enough. I've been doing so many interviews here because it's such a great, powerful group coming together here in Windsor. And I had to also get your story out. I'm so inspired by people that are sharing their stories and that then maybe we can make shifts in our own lives and be inspired by that. God knows how it works, but I'm so inspired by it. I just follow my heart. I know I had to get this conversation out. So your name is Deri, and you're all about adventures, but you had a major breakthrough years ago. So can you tell us what happened? And
yeah, as we were talking about earlier, I think sometimes we need shifts in life. Sometimes the slaps come a little bit harder than others, but for me, I'm a Welsh boy who did good, came through the city, came through business.
Welsh.
Ah. That's another nationality added to the list here today. And you look at life sometimes, and I had the corporate, I had the money, I had the girl, I thought I had everything, but I didn't. I didn't have the spirituality. I'd lost myself somewhere along the way. And two things happened simultaneously to me. I was a rugby player. As a Welshman, I don't know, you don't really understand rugby so much in America, although the French do. As a rugby player, I got injured to the point where I couldn't play anymore. And that was combined with my father dying all at the same time. So rugby was my life, and my big father was a big part of my life. And suddenly you lose it all. And it was in that moment that I had the epiphany, because we all die. So it wasn't the death of my father, which was the sad bit. It was the fact that he died with his dreams intact. And that was the bit that really hit me hard, because he always said that one day he would do this. When he retired, he would do that. And he never did. He never got to do those things. And I was heading down the same path. I was so busy in work, I was so busy in business, I was so busy doing and doing the material stuff and the financial stuff. And I just stopped in life and just took a look back. We just did an exercise downstairs, which is an exercise I did nearly 8 years ago now, which was, okay, so we're sitting on our deathbed and you're looking back. What is it you would regret? And for me, the overarching theme was adventure. I need to experience this world. We're here once, maybe we come back. I don't know. I'm not going to take that risk. I want to do it all now. And I set myself the challenge. It's not so much a challenge, it was more of a discovery. I wanted to see the best this Earth's got to offer. And I called it the Global Adventurers Grand Slam. So I want to go to both poles. I want to climb the 7 highest mountains in the world. I want to run across the desert. I'm going to run across the South American rainforest. I'm going to do an Ironman. I'm going to test my mind, my body, my spirit to the very max. And let's just see what this world's got to offer. And that's what I did. 8 years ago, I started the journey. And now climb 5 of the highest mountains in the world. I've run 6 marathons back-to-back across the Sahara Desert. Just finished an Ironman. And
oh my goodness.
Yeah, and the adventure continues. But it was a journey that was born out of inspiration, but it was also born out of a little bit of ego, being honest. And what you realize is when you get into the raw elements of this earth, when you are in the depths of Alaska climbing the highest mountain in North America and it's minus 40, there's no ego. The ego is stripped away. And
well, you have to anyway to perform at the next level, don't you?
And I think I needed the lessons a little bit harder than most. I think I was probably a little bit more stubborn than most. So by putting myself into those extreme environments, I was literally taken to my knees. I've been on my knees many times in front of God now, whether it was in the Sahara Desert or whether it was in the depths of Alaska.
And in what moments were you on your knees?
Just physically. You literally, in the desert, I'd already done 3 marathons across the desert, and I was facing a double marathon because they put a marathon back to back. So I was a marathon and a half in, and I didn't have anything left. You're physically broken, you're mentally broken, you're emotionally broken. And I was on my knees, literally, in the middle of the Sahara. And that's when I had that moment of there's something much bigger than us. I think some people get it through meditation or yoga or whatever their thing is. I get it through adventure. I get that That's where I've connected, and I've really kind of understood it more.
That's where you kind of tap in it, or have this conversation, or have this.
This is my meditation. I live in one of the most beautiful parts in the world. Wales is, for me, it's one of the most beautiful parts of the world, and I get to run and cycle and do all my stuff in some beautiful places, and that's my meditation. Adventure is my meditation, and so what I've learned on these adventures is what I've kind of written about and now speak about. It's that journey. It really was about how you evolve, how do you take that vision and execute it? Because it's a grand, it started off as an idea, and I'm no super athlete. This is not about being some kind of super person. I went out for my first run. I ran 2 miles and I got asthma and I had to walk home. So it's not about that. We can, as human beings, do anything we choose, truly. And my story, my adventure is not about my adventure. It's actually about the adventure of the person I'm speaking to, because we're all on an adventure. Some of us just aren't awake to it, which is the sad thing.
So how did you take it to that new level when you pushed yourself so much physically and mentally as well in those extreme conditions? And what was the big realization that then took your life at a whole new level that was really missing? And I guess you were kind of seeking through those adventures.
Good question. I'd done the Sahara and I'd done a number of the mountains, and I got to the point where Denali, which is the highest mountain in North America, it's in the depths of Alaska. It's a very notorious, nasty mountain. And I spent a month on that mountain, climbing up to about 100 meters from the summit. And at that point, I faced the worst form of weather I've ever experienced in my life, and I hope I ever will again. It was like hell unleashed. And there's a place called Denali Pass where people, in legends, has it that they've been literally flash frozen. It is so cold, and the winds come across the Russian steppes through this place. It was extreme, and we just got shut down in a whiteout, and that's the closest to death I've been. I fell 3 times on the way down, and thankfully my team were able to rescue me, and I was able to get back on track. But at that moment in my life, now this actually coincided with 2008. If you remember, there was that little slight banking crisis and a few other things going on globally. So the first time my mind actually, back home, a lot of my businesses were crumbling. A lot of the financial stuff was going down because the world was just collapsing, and I just happened to be on the mountain when the world was collapsing. And at that moment in my life, suddenly it was the first time I hadn't summited. It was the first time I hadn't actually got to the summit, and also nearly died in the process. And I nearly died on that mountain in that moment. And when I got back to the tent, because of everything that was going on at home and everything that was going on back at home, I went out onto the steps and looked down, and had this. I just wanted to end it all. I was done. It was that moment of my everything that I thought was important in life, the finance, the businesses, the ego, the summit, everything was gone or was going. I was actually making legal calls at 17,500 feet to the lawyers back in the UK to see if where various businesses were going down. And I had a family. I had a beautiful young daughter and my wife, my mother and my close family, and I had to make a decision, because I thought at that point, in a moment, it was about the money, it was about the wealth, it was about the esteem, it was about the status. And I looked down I think it must be a 3,000 meter drop, and just thought, I just need to make one step, and that could be all over, because my life was insured so highly that if I'd have made that step, then my family would have been looked after. And it was that shift in a moment, and I had the boot over the mountain. I could have made that step, and the only thing that brought me back was my daughter, and the fact that she wouldn't ever know what Daddy'd done, or what Daddy believed in, or what Daddy thought, and that's why I wrote the book. I wrote the book for her, and she was the one who brought me back. And from that moment, that's where everything shifted for me. That's where everything shifted back to service. How can I serve? How can I add value? How can I leave a legacy? And that's my whole mantra now and which is why I encourage everybody to do it. It's to live fully, to love fully, and to leave a legacy whilst you're here, because life's too short.
What's the name of your book?
Life's Great Adventure. And it wasn't meant to be published. It's a very personal tale where I've taken every chapter as an adventure, but every chapter is what I've learnt in life by doing these adventures, and it was guided to my daughters so if anything happens to me, they know what Daddy stood for. They know what Daddy did, and they know what Daddy believed. And I wrote the book and just happened to have a friend who was a publisher, and she encouraged me to get it published. But because sharing this, obviously suicide, bad word, and this took a big shift for me to be able to share this openly in public. And there's a couple of other elements of the book in the desert when I talk to God, and on the depths on the highest points of Aconcagua, where I had another spiritual experience. They were only meant for my daughters. They weren't meant for the public world. And it was my publisher had to encourage me to be able to get this out and to be able to share this, to serve more fully. And
it's in those moments of pure authenticity, pure stripping out all the rest and just being ourselves, that's when we all bond and unite and recognize each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it's been a humbling experience ever since, because the number of people who have read the book, and now I'm speaking and sharing these stories. The number of people I was speaking 2 weeks ago in a summit, and just a group of 40 leaders. And I shared openly various points, one of being, that moment of that choice of whether or not you end it or not, and the reasons why not. And 3 people came up to me afterwards in private and thanked me because they were going through that decision in their life right now. And I come from Wales, and as I've already alluded to, as a passionate Welshman. But I know there's been 3 people from my community of my age in Wales who have committed suicide in the last 5 years. That I knew. And
pressure can be so high. Huh?
And the world at the moment, we're in this crazy spiral, which is shifting at the moment. And if I hadn't been there myself, and because I've opened up and people look to me and they think, Deri's the business guy and he's got this and he has the adventure, so he's all good. And the fact that I've been to these dark places, I just hope that I can touch other people who are in these dark places to say, it's okay. It's okay to go there. The trick is coming back. And I think we all have a duty and a responsibility in this world to be that gift for the other people, to be able to pull them back, to be able to help them back, and know that there's you have to experience the dark to experience the light.
Yeah. So in those moments of darkness, what are the questions? What shall we do to pull ourselves back? Or if we feel desperate, there's just no more light at all, how do you get that flick? How do you get that light back on again?
I think it's different for all of us. I think go to someone that you love. Wherever I've been in the depths of the world, and I'm a kind of hard-nosed business strategist, so love is not something we talk about in business. But you have to experience it. When I've been on my knees or when I've been close to death, the only thing in those last moments, if you are going to be knocked over by a bus, in those last moments, the only thing you're going to be thinking about is those around you who you love. And if nothing else, if we can just love more fully, go to the people who love you. Because that's the thing I think with suicide. A number of people describe it as a selfish act. And I think, in my case it would have been. I don't think, and maybe not everyone's the same, but it's not about you. It's about the ones that you'll leave behind. It's about the loved ones that you're surrounding you. And I go to the people you love, or just take another question on life to say, what is this about? What is my gift? What is my legacy? And I think it has to be bigger than us. My legacy is way bigger than me. I have no idea where it's taking me, and that's part of the magic,
But how about if there is a pile of lies that are so big that even your family is into those lies, and you just want to jump off that building because it's just so much. You just don't know. You're afraid to disappoint others. You're afraid to disappoint your whole family. If you tell them who you really are. I mean, some financial people, and I saw it in Chicago, were jumping out of the cliffs, not at the cliffs, but literally the high rise, because they couldn't bear it anymore. because they were afraid of the look and have the conversations. I guess, I don't know. I didn't have time to to have those conversations with them, but I can imagine.
Yeah, and particularly if you look at the trend, I really believe, and it was certainly true for me, that if you look at the trends of the people who are doing that, the people who are jumping off buildings and stuff, there's quite a heavy finance relation to that in a lot of cases. And I think it's not so much what do we do about people when they're on the shelf. Well, if they're on the ledge looking over, we're not there. It's very difficult to do anything. I'd like to catch them way before they get on the ledge. And this is what you're doing. This is your life's work. All those people you're talking to, all these inspirational people. It's our purpose. It's our purpose of every individual on this planet to be able to be that gift, to be that inspiration, to try to enlighten people, waking people up before they get on the ledge.
Share the story of that moment where you decided not to go that route, but you decided to go towards the light.
So then if we are able to share more openly, because we just don't talk about, suicide's not talked about. And if we talk about it more, because I think people are on the ledge thinking, I am the only person that's thinking like this, so the only way out is down there. And yet, I thought that I didn't share it openly. It's not something you talk about in business. It was very difficult for me to put it out there. But then when I did, and I had this overwhelming response from people going, I've been there too. Oh my God, thank you for sharing. I thought it was just me. I thought that I was a freak. I thought that I was bad or evil or didn't have a purpose in life. I just think, wow, how many people out there are facing these things? But because none of us talk about it, then how are we supposed to know?
Then we think we're separate, different, nobody can think like us, that we're alone. Yeah. When it's not the case.
Not the case. And your whole community here shows that that's not the case.
Yeah. And every time it's like, oh, thank you. And I'm sure you'll receive all those emails, because it always, it's a ripple of feedback where you just, people are just so grateful for hearing a story that they can, and it's just at the perfect moment. Like, how can you time all this? Aren't you quite amazed as well by the timeliness of everything, and how this whole universe kind of conspires and puts us as work when we start letting go of this rigid, solid way of acting and being in those rigid goals. Is when we surrender.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is the goals. That goals. I talk about it in the book. I kind of have a whole chapter around goals, but then I caveat it with it's not about the goals. And I had to learn that myself. And my mentor kind of gave me a great gift on this. He said, "Go. It's not about what you want in life. It's about what you deserve."
Who's your mentor?
Tony Wilson. He does lifestyle architecture. He's a great man, and he just talks about this legacy and this deserving. And I think my message to everybody, my main message is, it's about what's your adventure. We've got this great gift we've been given in life. Mm-hmm. And we're all on a great adventure. And it's not about climbing mountains and running across deserts and doing Ironman, because that's mental. So, but it's about whatever it is for you. You're on this great adventure right now, traveling around the world, meeting inspiring people, interviewing them, and sharing that with the world. What a great adventure! And that's everyone out there. Just find your adventure, live it again, and whatever it may be.
It's funny how, and I share this in my book, so you find yourself on the top of the summit in your life, and then all of a sudden there is a crisis, and you're like, oh no, actually I was not at all. This was just a plateau, and oh, here I am, free, I feel this. And so you must have encountered many different stages, and we were speaking a little bit about that, but it's like it's a non-stop thing. It's a journey.
It is, and I know it's a cliche, and people talk about life's the journey, not the destination. But I think mountaineering really teaches you that in hard terms, because on a mountain like Aconcagua, which is in South America, it's the highest peak in South America, you're on that mountain for about 3 to 4 weeks. So you're on this journey on the way up, which gets tougher and tougher. And you're on the summit for about 2 minutes. So if life was really about the goals, for a whole month on a mountain to be about for 2 minutes, then I think we've really missed the point of what life's all about. And so now I go to these places. Yes, I want to go to the pole, and yes, I want to climb Everest in 2014. If I get to the summit, great. If not, I'm just going to have a great adventure whilst I'm there. And I think I'm beyond the goals now. I'm beyond the summits, which has been, from an ego point of view, which was a hard thing to give up.
But do you think we can reach it, even though because we were so taught that you need to have the summit in mind so that you will have the stamina, or you will have what it takes to reach it, and you have to visualize it and all of that. But you're not about that anymore at all?
I was the biggest guilty merchant of that throughout my life, but not anymore. It's not about that anymore. It's about the feeling the summit gives you. And the final chapter of my book wraps this up, where I finally got the lesson, because I didn't summit in the final chapter because I didn't need to, because I had the feeling beyond the feeling of summit further down the mountain. And I think that's life. I think I kind of hold the bigger feeling that I'm looking for. So I'm always seeking the feeling, and that's the great thing about this thing up here we've got, and this body we have. We can feel it now. Imagination. You know, I climb Everest pretty much every day because I just know I know it's going to feel like. Yeah. It's going to feel. I think it'll probably feel a lot worse when I'm on the top, but it's that feeling. It's just. If we're just waiting for that feeling, if we think it's about the summit, if we think it's about that 1 minute of your life, then what a waste life would be. That just doesn't make sense now to me. So it's about every single minute, and I try to orchestrate my life now. I'm quite a freak when it comes to the whole orchestration of. I want every minute to count. Like this right now is amazing, but if I get off the train, I travel down to London first class, and I love my journey on the train. Mm-hmm. But then I get on the tube just for 20 minutes, and that used to be, I don't like the tube in London, but I go off peak now. But I just put on inspirational music, and I have fun, and I enjoy that. Every single moment, if you're sitting there, if you're not conscious of that moment, and you're not trying to make that moment greater, then you've just wasted a moment of your life. Mm. So it's about every moment. It's not about the summit. Mm.
Well, thank you so much. How exciting. This was wonderful. Absolutely inspirational. Thank you, Deri.
Thank you. You are an inspiration. That's for sure.
Is Deri or Deri?
Deri.
Deri. Okay, wonderful. And the title of your book is? Again?
It's Life's Great Adventure.
Wonderful. Aren't we on a great adventure? Oh my goodness. I send you much love, my delicious co-creators from Windsor in the UK. Bye-bye. interviews here because it's such a great, powerful group coming together here in Windsor. And I had to also get your story out. I'm so inspired by people that are sharing their stories, and that then maybe we can make shifts in our own lives and be inspired by that. God knows how it works, but I'm so inspired by it. I just follow my heart. I know I had to get this conversation out. So your name is Deri, and you're all about adventures, but you had a major breakthrough years ago. So can you tell us what happened? And
yeah, as we were talking about earlier, I think sometimes we need shifts in life. Sometimes the slaps come a little bit harder than others. But for me, I'm a Welsh boy who did good, came through the city, came through business.
Welsh.
Ah. There's another nationality added to the list here today. And you look at life sometimes, and I had the corporate, I had the money, I had the girl, I thought I had everything, but I didn't. I didn't have the spirituality. I'd lost myself somewhere along the way. And two things happened simultaneously.
Hello, my juicy co-creators, Lilou here. I can't not get enough. I've been doing so many...
That he died with his dreams intact. And that was the bit that really hit me hard. Because he always said that one day he would do this. When he retired, he would do that. And he never did. He never got to do those things. And I was heading down the same path. You know, I was so busy in work, I was so busy in business, I was so busy doing and doing the material stuff and the financial stuff. And I just stopped in life and just took a look back. You know, we just did an exercise downstairs, which is an exercise I did nearly 8 years ago. Simultaneously to me, I was a rugby player, and as a Welshman, I don't know, you don't really understand rugby so much in America, although the French do. As a rugby player, I got injured to the point where I couldn't play anymore, and that was combined with my father dying, all at the same time. So rugby was my life, and my big father was a big part of my life. And suddenly you lose it all. And it was in that moment that I had the epiphany, because we all die. So it wasn't the death of my father, which was the sad bit. It was the fact